All right, we're broadcasting here.
Thank you.
Just letting me know we just went live
Thank you.
because I subscribe to our YouTube channel. If anybody's listening, you need to subscribe to it too.
How's your mom, Sandy?
I guess she's all right. I try not to be in her way, so I run in and run out.
It's a nice way of putting it.
So you're staying in your trailer?
Oh, yeah, she got it.
What do you call that thing? It steams up. What do you call that thing?
Vaporizer?
Air purifier.
Oh, air purifier.
She got one of those?
Yes.
Does it help? I don't know. I'm just laughing.
We used to live with those things,
Yeah, when you need them.
yeah. Especially on Joe's baby would keep on going quite often.
Yeah, made the moldiest out.
She got her. You been watching too much TV?
Yes.
I tried to tell her, but she gets mad.
Well, some days my mom treats everybody else nice but me.
Yes, I know. I know
This is
that
one of those
feeling.
days.
I know, darling. You can't help it.
She kind of growls. I know a lot of hers. I know it's pain and all that, but a lot of us have medication making her like that too.
Oh, yeah. Have to grin and bear it.
Oh, yeah. You said Jenny came over supposed to be here?
You said there was gonna be. Yesterday was a free taco.
Yeah, I want your one.
On Taco Tuesday?
At Taco Bell.
I bet the line was so long.
Well,
What is really so sad is all these people are dying in these nursing homes,
Yes, ma'am.
and the families aren't even able to see them. Some are gone for several days before they're notified.
It's so sad.
Brother Williams, is that you?
But the worst part about that is we don't have enough work. I know it's a good man.
can't hear me.
You're always wondering what's going on.
Yeah, you should.
They're not being able, especially they pass away, so you really shouldn't be by yourselves.
Brother Williams, is that you? I can't hear you.
Put us in this predicament.
We can't hear you, but we can see you. This is David Williams from Statesboro. He helped us with our roof.
Okay.
And I turned mine on just in case nobody showed up. We keep our 40-minute time slot going. If you can hear us, just speak up. I'm not sure I can hear you. Well, we'll begin. If he shows up, he'll come up over the, maybe I've got him muted. Let me look. Mhm. All right. Dad, would you listen to a prayer, please?
Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this privilege we have once again to come together and study your word. Please be with the teacher this evening and help him to say those things that will encourage us and strengthen us in your will. Help us, dear Heavenly Father, to always follow the truth. Help us, dear Heavenly Father, to be your spokesperson here on this earth. Give us the strength to do what we need to do and courage to take it on us through your son's name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
We got invitation song within the first verse of 536.
536.
536.
536. All right. Now, we're in Revelation 14, beginning with verse 6. Now, this is the wonderful part of Revelation, which just happened, the 144,000 who have been purchased from the earth, the one who have not been defiled with women. We talked about that man that kept himself chaste. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been purchased from among the first men as first fruits to God and to the Lamb, and no lie was found in their mouth. They are blameless. And I saw another angel flying in mid-heaven, having an eternal gospel to preach to those who live on the earth, and to every nation and tribe and tongue and people. And he said with a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him who made the heaven and earth and sea and springs and flowers." And another angel, a second one, followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who has made all the nations drink of the wine of the passion of her immorality." After all of this, and it's kind of interesting to see that the saved, those who are going to heaven, are with God already. And then the angel comes out and he says, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come." So judgment has, it looks like, already come to those who are saved. But judgment, the wrath of God, the wrath of the grapes of wrath that we talked about, the illustration, they have already come. So, and the idea is that the judgment is that's left on the, hey,
We're late.
yeah,
Don't tell nobody.
we've got guests actually from Statesboro there with us.
Oh,
Now, the judgment that he's talking about, he's very clear that this judgment is wrathful. This judgment is horrible. This judgment is awful. The saved are already with God. Now it's coming. And in verse 8, another angel, a second one followed, saying, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who has made all the nations drink of the wine of the passion of their immorality. Obviously, Babylon is who? It's Rome. It's Rome. And even though everlasting judgment never came on Rome at the time, still hasn't yet, but Rome fell fairly, so far as history is concerned, fairly quickly after this. So, a couple of
one of the most important things to do is keep our.
We can hear you now. We can hear you now and something in your background. I'm not sure what it is. How you doing, Brother William?
So what CDC has done is that we really.
Have you got your TV or something on in the back?
Particularly at this time as we begin to get ready to reopen that conference.
Okay.
I thought I had to tell you.
Okay. Yeah, we can see you and hear you, but you have your TV or something on in the back. We can hear that too.
Then at 6 feet, there was a third case. That's the can.
Oh no, he turned off his video. Seems like I can hear that you've got the news on behind you or something. It sounds like I can hear the news, but I can hear you.
Yeah, Joe Holiday.
Yeah, we can hear you. All right. We are in Revelation 14. You want to follow along with us. Now, the judgment that's come, and something we've used many, many times before, is another, after he says, Babylon the Great, she who has made all the nations drink of the wine of the passion of their immorality. Then in verse 9, then another angel, a third one, followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast in his image and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand, we've already talked about that's the symbol of this pagan worship. He will also drink the wine of the wrath of God, which is mixed in full strength in the cup of his anger. And he will be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of his holy angels and the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever. They have no rest day and night, those who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. Here is the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God and their faith in Jesus. Now, this is pretty rough stuff. This is pretty rough judgment. We've talked about the wine of the wrath of God, the grapes of wrath, back in back a ways. But back in
Revelation 12, where
we're in 14.
The blood flows up to the bottom of the horse.
Yeah,
That's what you mean Revelation 13.
yeah, it's in 13. I'm trying to find out the exact verse, but it doesn't really matter. We've already read about that, where we get the words from the Battle Hymn of the Republic. But these people receive the full wrath of God. What does that mean? It goes all the way back to really the Old Testament, because when Tyre and Sidon were destroyed, that was fire and brimstone. And you see that a lot in the Old Testament. So that's of judgment. And look at the fire and brimstone, the presence of his holy angels, and the presence of the Lamb. The smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever. They have no rest day and night, those who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. What kind of, in literature, we call that a metaphor. What is this smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever?
They're suffering for worshiping the beast.
Yeah, but look at what does the image bring to mind?
Or the torment.
The smoke of their torment.
It's a lake of fire that was raised down in other places.
Yeah, and I've seen a lake of fire. I mean, or a pond of fire.
It'd be like the words torment, anyone could ever imagine what you could not imagine.
Just a very illusion or illustration or metaphor of the smoke of their torment.
You can run it.
Yeah, and it never goes out. What was that stuff in Vietnam that never goes out?
So,
Napalm. Yeah, and it would never, ever, ever go out. It would bring its own fuel with it. Never would go out. They said those people who were hit with that stuff, it just would never go out. You couldn't put it out. You couldn't even smother it, and it was just horrible. But think about that going on forever and ever. The smoke of their torment goes on forever and ever. No rest day and night, and those who worship the beast in his image, whoever receives the mark of his name. Now, at the end of this paragraph, it says in verse 13, and I heard a voice from heaven saying, right, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, so they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow with them. I don't know how many times I have read this passage at funerals. This is a very, very famous funeral passage. We all use it. But let's look at it very quickly. The voice from heaven, it's not an angel this time, but it's a voice from heaven tells John, write this down. Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. What does blessed mean?
saved.
No. What's blessed mean? Happy. It means happy. These are two words we don't add together. Happy and dead. We could have. It's tough to do with anything but a computer. It makes you come back in, or somebody else may come back in. I sent the email out or one of them. Blessed and happy are just not. Blessed or happy and dead are just not something we put together. In fact, I really don't ever remember having any happy thoughts about death. Funerals are sad things. I have preached a funeral before, and people did laugh during it, not loudly, but quietly, because of some stories I would tell about the person who passed. But what little I could do to lighten the mood did not lighten the mood much. I mean, the overwhelming emotion is sadness and horrible and awful, and should it be that way?
Really should be rejoicing for those who pass away.
That's the
But then it's your loss.
it's a head and a heart thing, Yeah, in our minds we know that from what we know of the Bible, but in our heart,
Our heart's missing something.
and I think we're going to go on a journey for a good while. My aunt does this. She lives in Colorado, and my other aunt she never moved away from Missouri where Dad was brought up. And then when they come down here, she gets in her car in Colorado and goes and picks up Erlene. And then she has a traveling companion for the rest of the way to Georgia, which is still a good way. I've driven it before from Missouri to Georgia.
Well, it's nice.
Right. But then, as she goes back, she has to drop her off, and then she leaves and goes on her way alone. To me, that's kind of like death. You leave and go on your way alone. And that's the separation and the sadness that we feel. But yeah, the head should say, and I feel sorry for members who have preachers when they preach funerals that only deal with the head, because there's a good amount of sorrow associated with it, and rightly so. But blessed are happy are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. I heard a guy say this in a funeral, and I've used it several times. I've heard a fellow say that I'm very sad right now. And he was preaching the funeral of his father. That's our house. Sylvia's over there. I just left ours going so the time limit could keep going, but I forgot the audio is on too. Hmm? Okay. So your mom or Sylvia? Tell her we can hear her over here.
No, I'm sorry, that was eavesdropping.
I'd rather hear this. But
I understand.
that's why I turned the sound down on our TV. The only person over there is Patsy. Anyhow, I thought they were coming back on, but it's actually our house. That's Sylvia. Oh, sorry. Go back. All right. So he was preaching of his father, and he said this during his funeral. He said, as much as I want Daddy to come back, I wouldn't call him back now for anything. Actually, no, I made a mistake. It was his mother. And he told her, he told that crowd, she's with Dad again, like she always was, because he had already passed. I'm not sure this was a good idea or not, to keep the window open just to make sure that Zoom has a 40-minute time limit. However, they've suspended that during the coronavirus thing. So, with the free version. So if I keep that open, whether somebody comes in or isn't here, then you see what I'm saying?
So you want to hear it.
His doctor's using, Google,
Meet
You know, video or
no,
DUO.
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 Yeah.
So I don't know if that's legal or not.
It's not free. You have to have a. You have to have a suite. Hang on, I can put a stop to this. All right, now, anyhow, and Google Meet is another one where you have a whole bunch of people. Google Hangouts is another one, but Hangouts is the only free one. We use Zoom this for school, and again, I would like to be able to work on it more and to make it better, but I can only work on it when we're having church.
They had a group that was doing Zoom, a church was, and people were breaking in on their services and causing.
I heard about
Racial hatred.
I heard about that in a Jewish school. They were doing that.
This happened to a church in the city.
But I can mute anybody I want. I didn't mute Brother Williams because he didn't know what he was doing, but I just muted our house. I can mute anybody I want, and I can also kick them off. So, and plus Zoom is coming under criticism, so, and I just noticed they just updated it. So now they're putting in an extra security. You have to go into a waiting room to be admitted. I have to, somebody here has to admit you to services. And I can mute you anytime I was about to do him, but I thought, no, he didn't realize the TV. He heard somebody else to watch the TV. But since Sylvia didn't know we were here. I didn't turn the video on. It was just you can enter Zoom with no video and no audio. And in fact, that's the way I prefer it at school. Because they come in muted and they can unmute themselves by holding on the space bar while they talk and let it go. That way I don't hear everybody else in their house. In fact, that's what I do, so now I can show urgent to say when I talk. All right, so he said that she's with Dad again. And I thought, that's a neat way to say it. And with my head, I believe that. I truly know it. But with your heart, it's very, very difficult. When Mother passed away, one of her favorite things to do, you can ask Dad, was to be with her family, her brothers and sisters. They could spend hours just sitting and talking and about present day stuff, arguing about Republicans and Democrats. One of the worst fights I've ever seen was her and her former best friend in high school who happened to marry her brother have a fight about baptism, a religious discussion. But they were still friends. In fact, Lynette still called whenever Mother was sick. She would call me and ask me how she was. Mother forgot who she was, but you know, and I picture Mother being with them again. You know, there's except for Patricia and my Uncle BC at Valley Mine, they're all dead. You know, they all died before Mother did. And I kind of picture that again. And it is kind of a neat feeling. I kind of liked it too. I went up there by myself to do a wedding. And after the wedding, and I'm telling you this about my own personal life. I'm not sure I would if we were broadcasting over YouTube, but we're not broadcasting over Zoom right now to anybody but our house. After the wedding, my cousin, I'm not sure what you call him, my first cousin was this guy's mother-in-law. Yeah, he married one of my second cousins. So I'm not sure what relation, but Larry and I were sitting there and looking at the family. We were off to the side, the driveway, just standing talking. And we both got very, very quiet. We just started watching the family. It's one of the most peaceful times of my life. To see, and I mean, there was my cousins and my aunts and my uncles and stuff. They were walking around doing silly things, you know, and playing jokes on each other, talking and laughing and stuff. And it was probably one of the most peaceful times in my life, most tranquil times in my life, one of the happiest times. And Larry, I looked over at Larry. He and I had known each other for years. Mother was the youngest. He and his wife were much older than I am. And he said, I know what you mean. Without me even having to say anything, because we sat there for 10, 15 minutes, just stood there and watched. And some of those moments come like that, and that's where Mother is now. You know, if I could call her back to when she was happy, I think I would. But in the last 6 months or so of her life, she was just so frightened of everything.
You know, Joe didn't even call her back and she was happy. How long did it happen to last?
Well, that's true, because it sure went away very, very quickly.
With the Lord, it never ends.
Yeah, but that's the head. That's not the heart. I mean, it's, I don't know. My point is, that's just not something we put together, but that's not something we put on, or we put together happy and dead.
It makes me unhappy that snake is dead. That you know, like,
Well, we're on this side of that though. Now, if we were on the other side,
Looks like people dealing with what's going on now, and they're not able to be with their loved ones that's sick and dying and have no finalization and what probably won't for the near future the way it looks. It's not the way things should be, but I can't imagine how they deal with that.
I saw a nurse today on the news. She was helping a lady FaceTime, or a man FaceTime his granddaughter, so they could at least see and talk to each other, because he was in quarantine. Yeah, it's horrible. But by the way, they are talking tonight about signs that could be on its way out. Could be over. CBS News was talking about it, but even in New York, the number of new cases is down some from they have been the last couple of days.
so it is. I tell you.
So, well, it's maybe it's still kind of, because we're not really good about testing stuff.
And the government is too smart. They get on TV and say, facial masks will not help you. I'm a health medical professional. It keeps them from getting it. It won't help you speak from getting it. Then they come back. Yeah, all means wear facial masks when you're out in public.
No, it's, you
Then
know,
they say, don't go to a restaurant. It can be spread. You go get it from drive-in restaurant. But anything you get can be put to contaminated packages to to take it home and nuke what we got and throw it back. So you're gonna contaminate your food.
We've gone out to eat, but well, not gone out, we've got to take out.
We have two, and we came to the conclusion, when we go on the road, we can't.
Well, last time I went to a Subway, it helped us decide that.
Well, the subway today. And,
Different Subway.
We'll tell you that later.
but now, look at what he says about the judgment in verse 14. Then I looked and behold a white cloud. Sitting on the cloud was one like the Son of Man, having a golden crown in his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. And another angel came out of the temple, crying out with a loud voice to him who sat in the cloud, put your sickle and reap. Put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come, because the harvest of the earth is ripe. Then he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. Another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven. And he also had a sharp sickle. Well, here it is. Then another has power over fire, and came out of the altar and called out with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, saying, put in your sharp sickle and gather the clusters from the vine of the earth, because her grapes are ripe. So the angel swung his sickle to the earth and gathered the clusters from the vine of the earth, and threw them in the great winepress of the wrath of God. And the winepress was trodden outside the city, and blood came out from the winepress after the horses' bridles for a distance of 200 miles. You said that was in 13.
Sorry, it was in 40. I mean, they had a lot, Joe.
Well, mine says 180 miles.
Mine said 180 miles.
Mine says 200. It's probably in. Well, I can guarantee it wasn't written in miles.
No,
It
No,
was
you
written,
know what?
it was written in stadia, probably. Now,
But what's the difference between 180 miles and 200 miles with blood?
mine says 600 furlongs.
furlongs. But again, it's not going to be written that way either, because that's not the way Greek measured in furlong. I think it measured in, I'm not even sure about this, I think Greek measures in stadia. But whatever it is, it's horrible. But now I like the illustration here. It's another agricultural one. We don't use this today. Dad and I were driving yesterday over to Pembroke to get some pills. Or no, to get some tartar sauce and cocktail sauce. Don and I went and got pills today. It is odd to go to a grocery store because people look at you like you're a leper. You know, get out of your way.
I do that.
So,
I know.
What are they doing in the grocery store?
and well, I mean, some people, y'all have the mask. Some people have the whole outfit. You know?
I would if I could, truthfully.
Well, I mean, there's nurses use a garbage bag if you want to do that. Be awfully hot tomorrow. But the thing is, you know, they look at, went to the grocery store, and on our way back, no, on our way there, I went to the post office first, so I went to Pembroke that way. Dad said, there's a lot of good farmland that somebody needs to use. Well, yeah, it is, but it's only April. We don't plant until next month. You know, you get fields ready now. And I did see, Don and I came back from Pembroke that way. There's a tractor out there spraying stuff on the weeds that have grown since last week. So they're killing the weeds and then they're fixing to
They're saying peanuts.
harvest them up.
It's
Well, it's cotton, because that's where it is. I mean, that's all the pages roll down there is cotton. But what's there now is just weeds, been laid out all winter long. So they are starting, but when it comes time to harvest, cotton's not a good example, but what he's talking about is grain. I've seen these things, and in fact, death, from this illustration, when we symbolize death, the guy in the black suit, he's got a sickle in his hand. Yeah, the Grim Reaper is what he's called. And there's a criminal minds going on that, the Reaper. But anyway, that doesn't matter to this. What happens is that sickle is sharp. And when it goes through an area of a field, there's nothing there. Nothing is gone. And it goes again. You know. And then the harvesters come behind it. Now today, I've actually done this. with wheat and with milo, which is the same kind of harvesting. You have a combine, and it does the same thing. Where that combine does, it just combines mechanically a whole bunch of the roles of the farmers into one big machine. It does it a whole lot quicker. But when that combine goes through, there is nothing. I mean, it was a pretty, if it's done right, and you keep the weeds out of it and keep it sprayed, it is a beautiful golden field. And when the wind blows through a big wheat field, it's absolutely beautiful. It looks like the ocean. But when the combine goes through, and these days when the sickle went through, it's all over it. It's gone, and it's ugly. And the only thing that you can do after you go through, well, today with the combine, you pick up the grain, and you get rid of the straw, and the grain is kept, and then they take it to the mill to get the shells off of it, or the grain silo. But you know, and then they take it to another mill to make it into flour. But after that is over, all the straw is out there. It's just it's ugly. And the only thing that I've seen people that do with it is burn it. They'll get a chain, tie a old tire behind the tractor, and go around the whole side of it and let it burn inward. And if you do it well, you can actually see from the smoke somebody did it the right way and at the right time, because it makes a solid wall of smoke. And if they do it wrong, you just see columns of it. But this is the illustration of, I mean, once the harvest has happened, it's over. Once the sickle goes through the wheat, everything is finished, especially from guys who know how to use it. You know, with me, it probably wouldn't look that great, but with the guys that know how to use it, it does, it works.
So the people that were going into the wine press, they were considered evil?
I don't think they were people.
No?
I think that these, if you'll look, an angel in verse 17 comes out of the temple which is in heaven. And then another angel has a fire where power came out of the altar, and he called with a loud voice to the one who had a sharp sickle. Put in your sharp sickle and gather the clusters from the vine. What happens is those grapes are taken from the vine and thrown in the wine press, and what comes out is the wrath of God.
Well, that's why I kind of thought maybe the blood ended up to the bridles of the horses.
That's
Or
just,
the blood of the
once
man.
the wrath of God is unleashed, it will cover everything, and nothing will be left standing.
I was saying the impression she was, God figured blood would be the bad people. People that worship Satan instead of the Lord.
I think
Blood
it's
was-
probably the result of the wrath of God is that kind of destruction and that kind of horribleness. All right,
You got a gift from Zuma, Joe.
got what?
I
You
miss
got a
it.
gift from Zuma.
What is it? Yeah, they've removed the 40-mile morning time limit. Looks like Donna took her off Zoom over there anyway. Okay.
Well, I spoke with someone that doesn't have a lot of Bible knowledge, and they said all this going on seems like the apocalypse to them.
Well, apocalypse. Honestly, the whole book is called Apocalypse. I mean, that's the name of this book. In Greek, the English translation is Uncovering Our Revelation. So the whole thing is an apocalypse, but no, the end of the world
Because
is
if
not.
somebody didn't think they would read this, and they would say, well, that's what's happening now. So many people are dying. And,
They've done that for centuries, though.
well,
Yes.
that's true.
They said it was the plague, they said it was AIDS, they said it was swine flu, they said it was SARS. This is the ultimate judgment of mankind, is what it's talking about here. But you have to understand the reason behind it being here is not a prophetic thing. well, it kind of is, but the purpose is not to reveal the end times to people reading this book in our day and time. Remember Revelation 1:1, these things which must shortly come to pass. So, did this happen then? No. But it's written because of something that was happening then. I mean, who is the one being judged? Go back to verse, the same passage, about Babylon. You know, fallen by verse 8, fallen is Babylon the Great. She who has made all the nations drink of the wine of the passion of her immorality. Okay, wine there, wine here too, about the wrath of God. You know, the reason that this is here, I believe, is to say, look at the wonderful things that are going to happen to you in the end. Verses 9 through 13. But then look at the horrible things that are going to happen to others.
They're not believers.
Well, and if you look at it right now, it looks like Rome is winning. And for all intents and purposes, physically they are. Because Christians are dying in the Colosseums, they're dying in trials, they're dying all over the place. But,
The more they kill, the more they come up.
you know, yeah, that's true. But anybody who is living at that time would look at the Roman government and Christians and say, who's winning? You're going to say Rome is winning. But what Revelation says through John is you're only looking at this point in time. Things will change. Believe it or not, they lose. You win.
That's like Jesus Christ himself. He's the Son of God. But look what we can do to him. We beat him,
And-
scourged him, put a crown of thorns
It's a
on
good
his head,
example.
spit on him, nailed him to a cross.
It's a good example because it looked like at the time
Looked like he lost.
that Rome and the high priest and the Sanhedrin were winning. And they thought they were.
Until you start walking amongst them.
Well, I had my Greek professor at Harding put it this way. The Sanhedrin, who were really the architects behind the crucifixion of Jesus, even though when that Mel Gibson movie came out, the Jews claimed, no, we had nothing to do with it. It's pretty obvious. Do I think most Jews had anything to do with it? No, I don't.
Yes,
At the time. Just a very few.
and the rest of them just followed lead.
But the thing is, they thought they were winning when they put him to death. But it's, Brother Walters said, he's not Dr. Walters, said this. He said the Sanhedrin soon found out that this Jesus guy was way more trouble dead than he ever was alive.
Well, he didn't stay dead no more.
Well, once they killed him, they made things worse for themselves. I mean, he was alive for 40 days after the crucifixion. You know, he was alive all around Jerusalem. He traveled to the countryside up to, well, we know he went to Emmaus one time. Don't know what he went there for. But he went up to Galilee again and fished with the disciples. And that's where he ascended into heaven. And then I noticed that a little bit later, Peter and John are brought before the Sanhedrin. Then all of the apostles are brought before the Sanhedrin. And they beat them, is what it says in the Acts. But then they didn't do anything to them. They let them go. And people
They
say,
want
well,
to
they,
crucify Jesus. What's going to happen? He crucified.
yeah, I mean, and plus you have to ask yourself, how was Jesus so safe during all this time? Because once you kill somebody, what else can you do?
Bury him.
I mean, isn't that basically, he didn't stay buried either. I mean,
No,
once
he
you kill somebody, you execute them and bury them. You basically, here on this earth, done your worst.
The people that were raised from the dead and he was risen, I wonder how long they lived after.
Probably a natural life.
Oh, I kind of wonder.
Well, I mean, it would have been not much of a miracle if they just died in
Right, I
immediately.
know
So
that it doesn't elaborate how
it
long.
does.
Well, they
And
tried,
that's one of those, and I've heard that over and over. That's one
they
of those
tried to show
questions the Bible
Lazarus
doesn't
again
answer.
to prove Jesus didn't raise him from the dead.
I mean, that list goes back to, like where did Cain find his wife or where, did- you know, stuff like that. And the Bible doesn't say. I've heard that one mentioned before too, and I've seen great debates in Bible classes about the plain and simple fact to do something wrong. What happened to them? Did they all move somewhere and all live together? 'Cause that would be really weird to have them come back in Jerusalem and, you know, a whole bunch of guys out of the graveyard. Just going back, I mean, what would they do for a living? What they did before? I mean,
Who's got their home now?
you know, and
Who's
who's
got their
living
home?
there? It'd be a weird situation. If I was them, I think I'd just move. They go someplace and start something else. But be that as it may, yeah, it's one of those questions. It's odd to me that they did their worst to Jesus. And they didn't do anything else.
I bet there's something short had to come to pass.
Well, I mean, it took them forever to crucify Jesus. Can you see that in the trial? It took them forever to come together enough. They were a very divisive, ununited group at the same
He had
time.
to help them by not saying nothing.
Well, he helped them by admitting at the end what he was, and he, in their mind, said, "Well, you've heard it, and it got enough," because they tried their best. And I don't really know how this happened, but they wanted it to be
Legal.
more complicated than it really needed to be. They hired false witnesses to testify against Jesus if they'd seen him. If they had just stuck with one group, but they didn't, because different groups hired false witnesses to say stuff. And some of the false witnesses contradicted what the other false witnesses said. So if they just had gone with one group, all the guys that wanted to crucify Jesus, they made it so complicated, they couldn't get together on it. He had to help them at the end by doing it.
I know, he hadn't told them he's the son of God.
But-
They never crucified him.
Yeah. Well, they probably couldn't have brought it together enough for a majority to do anything about it. Because they all wanted to be the one that did it. All these little factions. And there was more than just two. You know, we always hear Pharisees and Sadducees.
They were all holding true.
Well, and I think they were, among those two, there were subdivisions among them that didn't get along. So, what's Sylvia left?
But they all want to be responsible, but after Jesus raised himself from the dead, I bet none of them want to be responsible.
Everybody always does that. They get drawn out of church and then they don't come, you know. Ronnie did that, I don't know. But the thing is, they couldn't do it. And we've even found in this country that when you kill someone, you gotta be real careful how you do it. Because there was a crazy guy. He was actually a preacher before the Civil War.
Who's his name, Joe?
John Brown. John Brown was nuts. I mean, in Virginia, he armed a bunch of runaway slaves, and they took over an armory enough to where they got enough guns for a bunch of slaves. Well, it didn't work out, and he got caught, and they hung him. The best thing that the South could have done, or Virginia could have done, was to let him live, because he was nuts, and let him talk. But instead, they hung him, and he became what? A martyr. In fact, there's a bunch of northern songs about John Brown. He was such a saint that he was, and he really wasn't. Crazy. Probably the best thing we could have done for Charlie, because every time he was interviewed with, he was nuts. And it's crazy. Nobody, they would interview Charles Manson every now and then. He was nuts. He finally died of old age. But if we
Yeah, if they released him, he did manage to get other nuts to follow.
some, but think of how many would have followed him had they killed him. He would have been a martyr. it already was kind of a weird cultic following. But I noticed that they would get kind of, and then they would interview him again. And then his following kind of dropped because he was nuts. You know, if he wasn't when he did that back in the 60s, he was now before he died. I mean, he said weird things. No, to me, I'm in your car. I'm making your radio mess up.
And he looked wicked. I
Hmm?
mean, he looked wicked, either.
Yeah, he tried to look wicked. I mean, he tried to look evil, but people would follow and think he was a wonderful and think he was a prophet. But then they would interview him again and that kind of support. It wouldn't all die away, but because he was crazy. All right, let's quit here. Now we talked about Charles Manson, who I do not believe is in here.
Good thing.
Now, 7 angels, 7 plagues, which are the last, because then the wrath of God is finished in chapter 15. That's going to be kind of surreal. So we'll look at them. How many plagues were there in Egypt?
So.
10.
Oh,
Oh.
2, 6, 7.
Which is what we're celebrating Friday, this Passover.
With the blood of the horses and the bridle thing, do you think you could come up with a mathematical estimation of how much blood that actually was?
Honestly, no. If you,
180 miles up to Horseshoe Valley, I've got a lot
Or
of.
different
well,
horses?
let's say 200, because that's the easiest
200.
number to deal with. I mean, I can do the area. Making my calculator.
I used to be 200 square miles.
When you have to figure out like.
No, it's 200 miles, 200 mile radius. Okay. So it is. I gotta find my calculator. All right. So 200 would be the radius, 200 times 200 times 3.14 equals. And then that's the area, the flat area. So to get the cubic yards of blood, horses 5 feet maybe? About 5 feet, the bridle would be, let's say 5. 628,000 cubic feet of blood. Blood feet.
I think that'd be
So-
dead in a lot.
And that's just a rough estimate, assuming 5 feet, assuming 200 miles. So that's a lot. Next, what I did was I just found the area of that, multiplied it by 5 feet. So that's how many cubic. That's a lot.
Well, that's like when you imagine what's going on with people that's passed away because of COVID virus, or people that had it. We can't really fathom that number, because you can't think of that many people, so thinking about that in terms of how large of the area they were talking about, it would be hard to.
Yeah.
Conceive it.
That's a huge area. So many square feet. I wonder how many miles. But I figured that out. I'm trying to think though. Yeah, go over. I'm trying to think, my radius was in miles. Yeah, I think it was, no, I wouldn't work. Because my height was in feet. It's actually more than
About 36.
how many feet are in? How many feet are in a mile?
5,200 meters.
Okay, so I came up with 628,000. You gotta multiply that times how many?
5,200.
Okay, that's a little bit closer. 3,315,840,000 square cubic feet.
So that would be like a 12 by 12. Is that a cubic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It The only other number like that I had to do recently is I was teaching economics. President Trump raised the debt to 3 trillion, or 17 trillion, something like that. The kids want to know how much a trillion was, so I was shocked. If you took a stack of $100 bills, 3 feet high, and put them on a pallet, filled up a pallet with those, and then filled up a football field with those pallets,
You still have some left over.
and then double it. That's about 1 trillion, so 6 feet high stacks of $100 bills across a football field. Then multiply that times 17.
Wouldn't a trillion be 100 billion? Isn't that how
We
a
have
trillion, 1,000 billion? How many zeros is there in
trillion. No. Well, a billion would be 12.
Yeah.
Be 12. You see, our base 10 number system breaks down.
where you
Because
get that high?
it goes, once it goes to hundreds and this, that, that. So really, it's the number before. 1,000 is 100 hundreds. Okay? A million though is only, is a
$1,000.
thousands.
But the numbers that they're talking about and actually having money isn't really even in existence, is it?
Doesn't happen.
I mean, it's
You're
cyberspace.
talking, well, no, you're talking about the Federal Reserve.
Right.
What that is. Less than a penny percent, less than 1% of the money in the United States is in cash.
Right.
It's in paper.
It is coming to.
And it's only $1 because we think it's $1. Everybody accepts it's $1. The guys, the government, the people who buy stuff from. What happens is the Federal Reserve Bank is really who holds all the bank. If I write a check to the church, then I give it to you. You take that check, you present it to SunTrust. SunTrust claims that amount from Wells Fargo's part of the national bank for the Fed. And then they deduct it from my account. That's how it goes. But that electronically happens billions of times a day. Now, the government, when it says it has a national debt, they borrow that, but that really isn't true. What they do is they take the money, they move the money from the Federal Reserve into the government's budget. The problem with that is, it's not so much that the government has to pay it all back, or China owes us, or this, that, or the other. The problem is, the economy of the United States and every country is based not on the money you've got in your pocket. It's based on the money moving around.
So when
Okay.
people get their stimulus money,
Hopefully it'll move around.
that's,
That's our plan.
And then it'll move around in areas that are taxed. So it will build that back up. But the thing is, the government never borrows money. It just removes money from the system, which you take away money, it works just the way as toilet paper is in Dollar General. I mean,
toilet paper
if
on
you
the
take it
shelf since
out-
I've been home.
Then it becomes more valuable. And so there's no state of emergency, so interest rates go up, which means less people buy homes, less people build homes, less people build buildings, less businesses start up. So that's what the debt,
So
the higher it is, the less money there is in the system to move. And if a business does not have the capital to start up something, that people aren't gonna get jobs that would have gotten when they expanded. All right, what was your invitation?
536.
536. Now that we've had a lesson in the Fed and all that kind of stuff, how many square feet there are, so many 200 cubic feet. If anyone stands in need of respond to this invitation, you can come together with Stan.
To
Canaan's land, I'm on my way where the soul never dies. My darkest night will turn to day where the soul never dies. No sad farewell, no tear in eyes, where all is lost and the soul never dies. Our Lord God and Father of all, we come before thee in prayer. We first praise thee, Heavenly Father. We praise the Holy Spirit. We praise the Holy Word, which is God. We ask you, Lord, to touch the hearts of each and every one of us here. Let us take the lesson we learned tonight with us. Let us spread it, Lord God. We ask you, Lord, to keep us all safe and out of harm's way. Stop this disease that's going across this country and bring it back and make it whole. We ask you, Lord God, to touch the hearts of all people in this country. Let them come back to thee. Those who never knew you, let them find you, Lord God. We always ask you, Lord, that guidance and direction. We ask you, Lord God, to heal those that are sick and cannot come to church. Heal their hearts, Lord God, if they don't come for other reasons. We ask you, Lord God, to take care of all of us. Most important of all, Lord, we ask you to have them on the way in all things. Let's do Christ, Lord, and you do praise you. That's all things. Thank you.
Amen. I'm gonna make what a few announcements I got, then I'm gonna turn off the YouTube broadcast because I ain't put some. Kim told me today that they're coming Monday to start. There may be
That's
some,
one, right?
there may be some, actually, I can talk about later, some link for that too. Let's see, nothing, we're not doing anything this weekend for Easter out of church, but I mean, we're gonna do something special
No
Saturday.
Easter egg, huh?
Come
Oh,
together.
no Easter eggs.
Well, Don and I were thinking about doing it with the grandkids, you know, if they come over, but I'm not sure what'll happen. So, we'll just have to see. Taylor lost her son, I don't know, law that went flying. She has no license, no birth certificate from AT, none of that. She's already trying to get all that stuff, and put it on Facebook for some reason. So I guess I found it.
That's what she did. If you see it between the street and the street.
So it's, you gotta be looking for it. Anyhow, she's having trouble, so remember that. We will be meeting here, what few there are, Sunday, and we'll be on Zoom. We're having limited success with it, but we're there. Nobody said anything, but Paul and Kelly have been watching this on our YouTube channel. I kinda like